right. I'm live here with a special guest, Brad Bell from Tecmo Bowl versus RBI Baseball.com. How you doing, Brad?
Good. Thanks for having me on, Tom. Appreciate the spot here.
Yeah, no problem. I saw that you are going to be throwing a big Tecmo not Tecmo Super Bowl, but Tecmo Bowl tournament in 2018.
Yes.
And I wanted to bring you on to talk a little bit about that, and then also talk about your website, Tecmo Bowl versus RBI Baseball.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So first things first, since it's on your homepage, let's go over the tournament that you're throwing. So I'm going to share the screen here.
It's popping up. Okay, there we go.
All right, we see it here. Okay, so here we have it, the 2018 Tecmo Bowl Tournament.
Yeah, I've run a few. This is the first one where we're actually going to have a substantial entry fee. I've put on 3 tournaments in the last few years, but it's a low dollar entry fee, mostly to draw in people for fun. But we're rather competitive and skilled at Tecmo Bowl, so I thought, let's take a shot at playing for some real money here.
Okay, so out of the tournaments you've thrown and then that you have played in, what's the largest there's been for a Tecmo Bowl tournament at this point?
I was in one in Columbus, Ohio that had 32 players. It was an impressive tournament. The guy who puts it on is Roy Hall. He was a former Ohio State football player, and he has a foundation called the Driven Foundation, which they do a lot of outreach work in the community and education and stuff. So he has quite a in the social media realm, I guess. So it was a really amazing tournament, well run. They even provided food. There was a bowling alley there. It was crazy. It was the best thing ever. So
that's awesome. How did you do in that tournament?
I won the championship. So
oh, nice. I saw you also. Didn't you also win the Retro World Series Tecmo Bowl tournament?
Yes, won that in Houston. So got a nice trophy out of that as well. So
how many participants were there in that one?
That was around 16, if I remember right. Not as well attended, unfortunately. We thought it would probably be the bigger of all the ones we've been to, but just for whatever reason, Houston didn't really come out and represent. So
okay, so there is definitely a market for the original Tecmo Bowl on the NES, and that's why you're throwing this tournament. 2018, we got Omaha, Nebraska here, March 31st, 2018, offering a big prize. First place, $825. But we got the first things first. We got that $113 entry fee. So this is for the guys who are serious competitors.
Yes, it is. We've done the ones that are $15 to enter. And so usually we have like $100 and some payout for first place, and second place gets maybe about 75. And what we find is we get a couple, there's a handful of serious players in there, but it's mostly a lot of guys just that are playing for nostalgia factor and things like that. So I used to attend RBI baseball tournaments in Chicago, Illinois, and Columbus, Ohio. And those were $100 entry fee. First place was getting $800. And so those tournaments were drawing people from New York, Texas, Florida, all over the place. So they would fly in for the weekend. And what we found in those RBI baseball tournaments is if you're willing to travel halfway across the country, you probably have a pretty serious game, which most generally those guys did. So I took that model from those 2 guys that put on those RBI baseball tournaments and thought, hey, let's do this for original Tecmo.
Yeah, I had no idea that those were going on in Chicago, because RBI is one of the games that I also play a lot on the NES, or I used to play a lot. Yeah. So I don't know at the time those were being thrown if I would have thrown $100 at it, but
those went back to, I think, the year 2000. when Mike Beals, he lives in I think it's DePlain, a suburb of Chicago, and I think their first few were maybe like 20 or 25 to enter, but at least around by 2001, they were definitely doing $100 entry fee tournaments, and surprisingly so, he's always filled them, and they even had people on the reserve list, so they were coming out to play.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense if you're gonna have a smaller tournament, and you're a good player at this game, or even if you think you're good and you're willing to pay the fee, to have that nice payout makes it more worth the travel. Especially like your tournament, you're paying out the first 4 places, so a lot of guys have a chance. And then I wanted to ask you, what is the group of 2 or more players with best overall winning percentage wins $50?
I have a friend that I play a lot of Tecmo with, and so we think we're the best 2 guys out there, and so we kind of wanted to put a faction angle on it. So what we're gonna do, a couple guys from Kansas City come up to play. What we're going to do is we're going to make it so they're separated in the bracket. So if these guys from Kansas City, for instance, think they're the best out there, we're going to set it up so like they couldn't play till later in the tournament. So so what we're trying to do is encourage people to come out in groups of 2 or more, to it'll help us fill the tournament, but also there's incentive with the extra cash as well, so if that makes sense.
Okay, so it's like kind of like if it was wrestling, like the NWO would come to your tournament.
Yeah, and like also, this is kind of a side story, but when a buddy of mine went to Houston, I asked about the group play and all this stuff, and it was all gonna be random, and so basically what it was stood was we could have randomly played each other in group play. When you travel all the way across the country, like that's the last dude you want to play is one of your buddies. You want to play other people.
Right.
And then also the way they kind of set up the actual tournament was there was also a random angle. So again, we could have played in a single elimination game right in the first round. So so after going through that experience, we didn't actually play each other in the first round or anything, but just the thought of that, I didn't really care for. So I said, hey, let's make a tournament where friends can be separate and they can try to do damage, on both sides of the bracket.
Makes sense. So what is actually the format of this tournament? How many games do you play like in the preliminary rounds before like a single elimination tournament, or how does that work?
The preliminary round, we're gonna bracket people up into little groups of 4. So the 2 guys that win, they're gonna move on to the right and face each other, and the 2 guys that lose their first game will move to the left and face each other. So just a simple, pairing off like that. So it's just 2 games in the preliminary round, and so that will give us players. That will give us 4 guys that are 2-0, 4 guys that are 0-2, and then we'll have 8 guys that are 1-1. So we'll pair them up accordingly. So the 2-0 guys will face the 0-2 players, and so on and so forth.
Okay. So does everyone advance then after?
Yes.
Okay. So
yeah. Sorry.
And then,
sorry, I'm cutting you off.
No, that's okay. And then they advance. Is it like a single elimination after that?
Well, it will be then the double elimination will start. So basically, if you lose a game or 2 in the preliminary round, it doesn't count towards your double elimination status in the actual tournament. So the preliminary is just set up to give us, a basis for seeding. People can, get some warm-up games in that, in effect, won't count against them.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, because that was one of my other questions. Do you know all the players and how you should seed them? But since you're doing it this way, you're going to get an idea who's the better players and how to seed everyone. So that makes a lot of sense.
And also, like, you never know with kind of the random setup. Like, you could have 3 of the 4 better players all fall into one little pool. So that's not an exact metric for seeding people, or however you want to put it. But at least it gives us a basis of, these 4 guys were 2-0 and these 4 were 0-2. So I've done the points for and points against stuff in my other tournaments. But again, it's never an exact metric. So we're just going to, divvy up the records like this. So.
Yeah, and compared to Tecmo Super Bowl, the games are a lot lower scoring in Tecmo Bowl. Is that right?
If the players are good at defense, they are. My buddies and I, we still have games where somebody will get in the 20s. 30s is pretty rare because we're too knowledgeable and skilled on defense. But we have a lot of 14-10 games, stuff like that, 14-13 maybe. So
cool. So right now it looks like you're looking for people just to that have interest to send you a name, email, and any comments they have. So when do you think registration will open for the tournament?
I'd like to start collecting money, maybe like October, something like that. And so it kind of gives us a nice window to, but by January or February, hey, we have enough guys that this is a go. So I feel confident that we will get up to 16. I have a buddy we're in. I know a couple other guys that I've traveled to or we've met in different places to compete. So I know they're reliable. So we got 4 and got a couple other fringe people I know. So getting close to 6 in reality out of the 16.
Okay, that's great. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to see how this turns out. That big entry fee and the big prizes, it looks like a lot of fun. You got it in. Where's the tournament going to be held at?
I'm leaning towards Addie's Sports Bar and Grill. Just a few months back, we did a double header tournament, Tecmo Bowl at noon, RBI baseball at 6 p.m. And so we held it at Addie's, and they have a really nice side room where you're still part of the bar, but you're still sequestered enough that you don't get all the bar noise and everything. And it's a really good size room. So in my previous tournaments, we had actually I had 10 Nintendos set up and 10 TVs. So it's very spacious. So that's the location we're looking at. In this particular 2018 tournament, we're just going to have 4 Nintendos and 4 TVs. So it'll be a situation where you'll play a game, you'll have 25 minutes break, then you'll get back in and play again. So the biggest problem is setting up 10 Nintendos, bringing all the equipment. It's a lot of work. It's time consuming. It's really a big hassle. So I wanted to kind of sparse things down a bit.
Yeah, me and Moore are looking to throw a Tecmo Super Bowl tournament in Chicago in October, and we're not going to have tons of equipment there either. Maybe up to 6 Nintendos, but that's all we'll need for the size. Because you're right. I mean, just looking at what they had at Tecmo Madison this year, they had just TVs everywhere, TVs galore. I don't know where they all came from or how Dave got them there, but they were there, and it was crazy with all the TVs in there. So
yeah, there was a guy I think he sent up. He didn't actually attend, but he sent like one of his buddies went up and they filled like a minivan full of TVs. So it's just it's amazing that they can put that together with that much equipment. So I can only fathom how many people they actually have to run that tournament.
Yeah, and then one thing I was talking to you about is we'll see if like those the reproduction councils maybe will take place.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't have to lug around these big CRT TVs. Yeah. And I think that Hyperkin HD is a good price for it. Yes. So we'll see how that turns out, and maybe that could be a replacement. So all you have to do is bring Nintendos in for these kind of tournaments.
Yeah, and lag, I actually use HD TVs at my previous tournaments, and with a Nintendo system, there's not a lot of lag. Occasionally, you have to be careful on field goal attempts, but for the most part, that's pretty much it. I don't have the room to store CRT TVs, so yeah, I'm really hoping the Hyperkin HDMI Nintendo lag that would just make things easier for everyone. Exactly.
Yeah, because there was other ones that came out, recently, but they were just a little too pricey. No one's going to throw tournaments with the $250 or even $180 system. It's just
Yeah, I've the USB AVS. I'd still like to get one. I do, from everything I've read. That's apparently the top model if you want to go HDMI outside of modding a NES, a mini NES, I suppose. So I might buy one of those just for the heck of it, you know.
Yeah, and that's the one that's like $180, and you could upload high scores and stuff to the internet.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, that's the one. Hmm.
Yeah. Okay.
Apparently, they're still they're mass produced. I don't know if it's Japan or China. So people that ordered them over the winter thought they might have them by the spring, and they're still waiting on them. So, so it's just kind of a waiting game for those. The guy that the company, you know, whoever makes those, they have a really good reputation in the gaming community, from what I understand. So nobody's freaking out that they haven't shipped yet, but it's been a long wait to get those.
Yeah, and I've heard only good things. So, you know, they're a great item, I think, if you just want to purchase one for your home and use that as your primary console.
Yeah.
All right. So, you know, I really like your website. So I don't just want to talk about the tournament. I think we should go over a few things on the website.
Good.
I love people in the retro sports gaming community that, you know, have the game or a couple games that they're really passionate about, and then they do things like create a website and create tournaments. I'd like to see all types of games get that kind of promotion. Like I did a Google Hangouts with a while back with Nick from Minnesota, and he really likes the NHL 95 game. And I know like the NHL 94 game is the one most of the gaming community likes to play. But, you know, he really likes NHL 95. He's got a group of guys that like NHL 95. So they all play it, and they have tournaments, they have a good time. So it's always good to see other games getting the accolades of a game like Tecmo Super Bowl with its large community.
Yeah, yeah. And if those guys with NHL 95 have a website, or eventually they'll find their people out there, I guess. That's what I want to say. But they will find the people that share their passion for that particular game. So it's really cool, since I like the original Tecmo Bowl, to find people that prefer it to Tecmo Super, and so that always makes my day to get an email from somebody or something like that.
Yeah, and it's a good time, the gaming online, the streaming, people watching it and chatting. It's only growing, so I think it's a good time for more retro gaming tournaments.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go. I wanted to go over just your Tecmo Bowl rosters.
Okay.
So you have all the rosters of the teams here. And then I think in the strategies, you actually have some of the stats for the players.
I might have those on there somewhere. I've really kind of gotten behind updating the site. So get married, have kids, that stuff. Kind of run out of time to do all the things you want to do.
Right.
So there's probably some pages on the site that are poorly unfinished that I'll be like, oh, really? I guess I didn't get to that. So
yeah, because you have 4 Tecmo teams here, and how many teams are in Tecmo Bowl?
There's 12. The original has 12.
Okay, so like on this one, I thought it's pretty cool because you have the 49ers offensive personnel, and then you have the speed of like Mike Wilson's a 6, Jerry Rice is a 10, and then Joe Montana has a 13 arm. So how are you able to get these kind of attributes for the players?
Just guys that have gone into the ROM. I don't really know all the technical jargon. I've actually dug around in ROMs a little bit, but those programmer guys, nerds, if you want to call them that, they've gone through and just figured it out.
Okay.
The arm, the throwing rating is kind of interesting, and I don't know if this pertains to Tecmo Super or not, but there's like a formula with what your receivers, each receiver has their own, I guess it's catch rating, and so when you put the numbers together and divide them by the amount of receivers and tight end, you get a number for what the quarterback's arm is. I don't know if my buddy just came up with that, but it's his formula was dead on for what we've noticed with the players' abilities. Um, so that was interesting, I guess. Maybe not.
Yeah, no, that's pretty cool. I mean, in the Tecmo Super Bowl community, there's a guy, Brewdog, that has done most of the mining of the game. So he's pretty much all complete with that. So I like to see the stats like this of other games, because in Tecmo Bowl, you're not able to go into the rosters of the team and see how good each player is.
Correct. During the game, yeah.
Just being able to see some of that, I thought was pretty cool that you have it on your site. Do you know if there's information anywhere that has all the teams and their tributes like this?
I do have files on my computer here. So, we have, since we play really frequently with my buddies, we have sheets so when I go to play my buddy Nate, I have a folder with everything. So we'll do a certain matchup and he's like, hey, let me see the sheet. I want to look at my top middle linebacker, or whatever, maybe from a obscure player or a team we don't use very often. So I do have all that. I need to get that all documented on the site for sure.
Oh, yeah, that will help out a lot. I think, players that are maybe on the fence of playing in your tournament, get a few more teams on there, then they could see what who has the advantage over what team. And I think you did a good job, because I've listened to some of your podcasts and you talk about that stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we like to try to go as in-depth as possible. And that's the thing with Tecmo Bowl, RBI baseball, whatever game, a lot of people, to them, they don't realize how deep the games are with different player ratings and different strategies and all this stuff. So we really like to, express that to the gaming community, that there's really a lot to these old games that, surprisingly so.
Right. Definitely. And I saw somewhere on the site that there's a self-proclaimed best Tecmo Bowl player in the world. Have you ever played him?
I'm trying to think what that would be.
There's like a video on your site.
On the first page, it's Cole Kubelik. Sorry. He's the we've had talks with him. He's relegated himself to the best Tecmo Bowl player in the South. So
okay.
He's a talk show radio host. He actually he's from Alabama, and they found he loves Tecmo. He loves RBI. It's his two favorite games. So many years ago, he had me on their radio show, their sports talk show, and so we've kind of started up a friendship a little bit from that. So and then he does a lot of he'll play Tecmo Bowl for charity. And there's prizes you can win if you beat him. He never loses, but so really a great ambassador for Tecmo, and it's always, he does a lot of things for good causes.
That's awesome. Yeah, I watched that video a time ago, and I thought it was pretty funny. But
he's also a former Auburn. He played center on the football team. So, and he's currently he does a lot of commentary on ESPN games, the kind of the lower level games. But he's climbing the ladder at ESPN. So.
Oh, nice.
It's good to have a pretty legit Tecmo player that's has a nice career in football afterwards. So.
Right. All right, let's switch gears a little bit. I just want to talk a little bit about RBI baseball.
Okay.
So RBI baseball, it looks like on the site here you do have all the teams and their statistics or attributes of the players.
Mm-hmm.
Now that's pretty cool, because just like Tecmo Bowl, the guys have different attributes, because when a guy runs base to base, you could see that he's running faster than other guys. When a guy goes up to bat, you could see the ball gets more carry on it. He could hit home runs. So this data being out there on your site is great data to have. It
is. Have you ever read the instruction manual for RBI baseball?
I have not. I've never owned one. So
it had like a grading system for the players, like with their batting ability, but it was just like A, B, C, D, something like that. And so it really wasn't as precise. So when you can see these actual ratings, like George Bell's 936 power, and then, Cal Ripken's at 855, you can start to piece together what those numbers actually mean based on your experiences with the game. So
yeah, speed is the SP. What's the CT?
Contact, that's contact. And what that is, it's this really brilliant programmer guy at the RBI website figured this out. Basically, what contact means is if you don't get solid bat on the ball, then your contact rating is how many power points the batter loses. So, like, if you hit the ball off the end of the bat and you don't get a good swing, Willie Randolph, his contact 16, so he would go from a 738 power to a, would that be 722 power?
Okay, so he would drop 16, like if he fouls one off or something.
Yeah. So if a pitcher eats you up and you hit it off the hands, if you don't get the good fat part of the bat. So contact is actually kind of a detrimental rating based on how that works.
Right. But it looks like a guy like Don Mattingly's only an 8, so he wouldn't lose as much.
And like Canseco goes from a 951 down almost 30 points. So
right.
So it looks like they've tried to nerf certain players a little bit so that Canseco isn't hitting 3 home runs every game, I guess. So
right. Yeah. So it looks like you got National League, Boston Red Sox. So I'm sure you have some data sheets somewhere that has all the players and their attributes.
Yeah. There is actually, if you just click on, I think it's just click on RBI baseball or actually RBI teams. Sorry, click on teams right there, and it might have all the information there, because I was starting to make individual pages for each team.
Okay.
That were a little bit, I guess those are pretty vague, so those don't have all the ratings. Sorry.
Talks about the teams. No, I mean, you don't need to apologize. Great information.
Yeah. Let's just give like a synopsis of each team, but it doesn't go super deep. So
yeah, this is great. Yeah, this site, Tecmo Bowl versus RBI.com. So I guess there is still stuff that you can add to it. Just like the Tecmo Bowl teams and their attributes and stuff. But it's cool because it's not like you break down different things for each team. So it's almost like you're reading a new article and you go click on, like, say, the Chicago Bears.
Yes.
So it's really cool.
Are you in RBI baseball, are you familiar with the pinch hitter power up bonus by chance?
No, I'm not familiar with that.
Well, RBI, the programmers did a really cool thing. In baseball, it's considered like the hardest thing to do is come off the bench as a pinch hitter and perform and hit a home run. When RBI, they flipped that so that when you come up to bat as a pinch hitter in your first at bat, they give you a 64-point power bonus. So What they did was make the pinch hitters really lethal. Which again, this programmer guy from the RBI forums had discovered that, and so RBI is knowing to be successful at RBI. Like a big part of it is knowing the ratings, knowing which batters to go after, which batters to pitch around, and then knowing which guys are really dangerous in their first at bat. So RBI is a fantastically deep game.
Yeah, it's an awesome game with the little pitching differences of each guy with their speed and being able to throw the spitballs and stuff, curving it all. Some guys have better curve range than others. So yeah, it's a pretty deep game for a simple controller, simple system like Nintendo.
It is, and it's what's kind of crazy is there's guys that maybe don't know the ratings across the board as well as I do, but there are guys out there that have phenomenal control of their pitcher, and if they can do that, they're hard to beat just because you're gonna struggle to score 1 or 2 runs. So it's kind of different. RBI is different in Tecmo Bowl in that sense, because I feel like in Tecmo or even Tecmo Super Bowl, you really have to know the matchups and the player ratings and all this jazz in Tecmo and Tecmo Super Bowl. But in RBI, man, you get a guy that can just pitch, and he can hang with anybody.
Yeah, and that's just like how it is in Major League Baseball. The guys, you get a good pitcher on the mound, he's got his stuff that night, and it's just tough to hit him, and you could lose just because the pitcher's doing well.
Yes. Yes, no doubt.
So, how have you done in RBI tournaments?
I went the ones that I went to that were, the $100 entry fee. I would win a series here and there, but ultimately I was a middle of the pack player, and I could hang with the guys that eventually were champions, but I wouldn't beat them in a best of 3 or best of 5 type of situation. So they just too much firepower, too much pitching. I met a guy that would not swing at a pitch if it wasn't a strike. His eye was that good. And I mean, what do you do with that? I played a guy, I could only nibble the corner so much before I make some mistakes, and he would always hit them out. There was another guy that he no-hit me, and I only struck out like 6 times. Like, he had that great of command of his pitches where he could just kind of nibble the corner, and it was ridiculous. So those guys were just next level.
Yeah, I always felt like I was a good RBI baseball player, and I would be able to beat up on my friends, and they would play me in it. But then Tecmo Super Bowl, I always thought I was good at that, and it wasn't until I started playing online or in the tournaments that I found out I really wasn't that good.
Yeah, I'm probably the same way in RBI. Like, I've done small tournaments in Omaha, and I was in the one in Houston. And if it's a small group of guys, and I'll be one of the better ones. But when the real guys show up, I'm just kind of middle of the pack. So unfortunately, it's just Tecmo's my thing, and RBI is more for fun.
Cool. So are those your 2 favorite Nintendo games?
Yes, they are. They're they're the best. Whether you're playing Tecmo or Tecmo Super Bowl. Really, those games are just the best 2-player Nintendo games you can play, in my opinion.
Yeah, and the fact that there's a tournament seed for Tecmo Bowl, I've always once you play Tecmo Super Bowl first, which I did, and then you go back, it's kind of hard to do. But now that I know there's a tournament scene with it and stuff, I think I'll take some tips from your website and see what I could do.
Yeah. And I think the problem is that Tecmo Bowl was out for a couple years, and then once they went to all the new advancements in Tecmo Super Bowl, people thought, oh, this is a superior game with good reason. And so people stuck with Tecmo Super Bowl, or they stuck with the sequels. So the knock on Tecmo Bowl is I don't think people over the last 25 years, they didn't investigate it enough. They didn't play it enough. Not enough people went back to it, because the original Tecmo has a ton of strategic elements, and there's strategic elements about it that are really different than Tecmo Super Bowl's strategies. So the 2 games are somewhat similar, but they don't translate to each other. It's interesting, because I've played in some Lincoln, Nebraska Tecmo Super Bowl tournaments and did okay there, but yeah, the 2 games they're vastly different.
Yeah, I learned a lot just from listening to your podcast and looking at your site. The one thing I did know that was the difference between Tecmo Bowl and Tecmo Super Bowl was in Tecmo Bowl they have less players, and then also if you throw a pass and your receiver's covered, it's almost always automatically an interception. Is that right?
Yeah, pretty much like 99% of the time.
Yeah, because I have seen where it hasn't been an interception, but I don't know if it's like the guide was like a few like pixels off or what it was, but it looks like you always get picked off if your receiver's covered.
Yeah, most generally. So it's kind of a fluke deal. Occasionally you'll throw an incomplete pass in Tecmo Bowl, and how that happens is your receiver, at the moment the ball is released, the receiver goes to make a break somewhere, and it kind of glitches the game. And what stinks was I was playing my buddy, and I jumped a route, and I got Dexter Manley all over his receiver, and it's late in the game. I'm trailing, and it was a freaking incomplete pass, and I'm just like 100% sure interception, incomplete pass. I was like, oh, are you kidding me? So more often than not, when we play and incomplete passes happen, they're usually to the defense's detriment. It's kind of how that works. So.
Yeah, well, you just got to live with the glitches you find out about in these games when you play them so much. It seems like every game isn't perfect.
Yeah. And I'd like to also say, like, I really enjoyed the videos you did with Mort on, I've learned a lot from Tecmo Super from just watching those. And since I play so much original Tecmo, I kind of understand what Mort's doing. I can kind of see what you guys are doing. And then the videos have really helped me to understand better. So I found them very interesting, even though it's not exactly, my game, but they've been very helpful.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I thought it would be good to get some videos out there. Getting Mort to come over and do those was definitely very beneficial because a lot of the guys know Mort. But, to get them out there on video, to grow the scene so people can come to the channel. And if they really want to play in the tournament, even if they're not that good when they're thinking about playing in the tournament, if they watch the videos, they can at least have an idea of where they need to be at to be competitive at the tournaments. And that's why we did the videos.
The thing with Mort, and I realize he's a top shelf player, and I say this respectfully, he does not look like an impressive player when you watch him play and little quarterback runs. And, like, I can see why I've read comments where people are like, oh, I would smoke this guy. And I just know, like, I don't think so, but in Tecmo Bowl, we're really skilled players. Like, I know we don't look impressive when we play each other because it's a lot of 5-yard outs and slowly moving downfield. It's very methodical. And so I see a lot of that when I watch Mort play offense.
Yeah, a lot of the top players will play more conservatively. I would say Mort does do that more often than not than look for the big play.
Yeah.
But if you really want to take command of your opponent and control the game, that's the way you have to do it.
It works, definitely.
Yeah, it works. And then even like when Tecmo Madison or other Tecmo tournaments have their streams on Twitch or YouTube, the players in the chat are always like, I could smoke these guys. They suck. Like, they're not doing anything. But that's the way you play at the top level. And if you played one of these guys, they would absolutely smoke you.
Yeah. And what people don't understand is there's a level of patience. Like, you or Mort, you guys know your defense is going to hold down most any team. And so that style of play that's methodical, it's really just because you're confident. Like, I'm going to just inflict my will upon you, death by 1,000, cuts or whatever you want to say. So it's good to see a different version of Tecmo Bowl, but it's people doing the same style of offense. So I have a lot of respect for that because I know what you guys are doing.
Yeah, and I don't know if you caught any of the Tecmo Madison tournament, but like Joey Gatz was the winner, and he won it last year. And I think players kind of questioned if he was really that good. But the way he played in this tournament, I was watching some of his games. I mean, he was taking care of business against some top level players.
Yeah, well, just to win it 2 years in a row, that's not a fluke. And as good as Regulator, I watched quite a bit that day, and his reputation is as good as anyone. So I could tell those guys were it was a really just tough luck for Regulator with those couple sacks, and when usually he's probably running around and avoiding those, and so it wasn't his day at the end, unfortunately.
Yeah, they said he had a few beers. And the offensive line of the Eagles is pretty terrible. So, and the D line on the Raiders is really good. So that's a weakness right there. And you don't have as much time with QB Eagles, Randall Cunningham against the Raiders as you would against some other teams. So
yeah, and that's something that I read a lot of comments on the Tecmo Super Facebook page, and they were just like you said, like, oh, we would smoke these guys. There's nothing special about them, and I kind of laugh, and I'm just like, I know what that's like, because the amount of work and time and study we put in the original Tecmo, like, all right, let's go.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, it's always
like,
fun to see the comments of people and what they think.
yeah, when I do ads for my tournaments, the biggest blowhards never show. So I'm like, oh please, you know, they're like, oh, I've never lost and I've this, and I'm like, please come. I hope this guy shows up. So unfortunately, those guys never show.
Yeah, they're all talk, no game.
Yeah. So
before we wrap up here, I just want to ask you: are you going to be doing any streaming at your tournament?
I really haven't looked into that. The main problem is because I supply all the equipment and everything usually, and I set up by myself because, you know, I have friends come in, but I don't want to inconvenience them. I'd like them to just go about their business that day. I always have so much going on that I really haven't looked into it, but I am interested for the next one. It'll be less equipment. So yeah, I'm looking into possibly doing that for the high dollar event. So
yeah, that would be cool. I think it would be good to see these games in action.
Mm-hmm.
I know you have a YouTube channel. I don't know how many games you have. I haven't looked at it in a while. Do you have games like playing your buddy Nate?
It's got a few odds and ends in there. I don't really do too much with it, so we should make an effort to play those games. But we should also do what you and Moore did and just kind of do instructional stuff and, you know, talk strategy and, you know, hey, let's, you know, you want to use this guy against San Francisco, and so that would be a good angle. The main problem is that Nate and I we do these competitions constantly, and so we're really into the games, and so to actually sit and talk about it really takes us out of the zone. So maybe we could play the game and then go back afterwards and break down the action, I guess. So
Yeah, no, that's something you could definitely do. I think I don't know if you've checked out Troy GB Land's YouTube channel.
Troy, yep.
Yeah, but he basically has a tournament going on, and he's got guys, and I'm one of them that's helping with commentary, but he's also got other guys doing it that are playing in the tournament and breaking down the games, talking about the games afterwards. So that's pretty cool, and I think that would be a good way to go about it as well.
Oh yeah, no doubt. So yeah, I would like to. My buddy Nate's looking into moving to Omaha sometime in the near future. He lives a couple hours from here, so if we could just team up again in the same city, we would definitely, you know, have a night or two a month where we'd get together and we could actually do more of this stuff. So that's another kind of hurdle we face, is we just don't live close enough to do that.
Yeah, I didn't realize that. 2 hours, that's a little bit of ways away. So when you get together, you just want to play your game.
Yeah. And for the longest time, he was the sports radio commentator for the school he teaches at for basketball, football, baseball. So he was tied up, you know, Friday nights and weeknights and always, you know, doing the radio broadcast. So he doesn't have a lot of free time either.
Yeah, well, everyone's got something they got to do. So, but I really appreciate you coming on and talking to me about your tournament and your website. If you want to do it again before the tournament, when it comes closer, maybe, you know, early 2018.
Sure. Yeah. We could definitely do an update show. And add one thing. I'm thinking of throwing out the idea for satellite tournaments for people. So if you get, you know, say 3 or 4 guys in Kansas City were interested in joining, but that price is a little too steep for them, I encourage people to, you know, get together and pool your money together and just crown your champion however you want to. And then that person, you know, if you had 4 guys, that's what, $28.25 each. So it's an inexpensive way to come up with the money to get into the tournament because of the price. So
Yeah, that's a good idea. I didn't really think about doing something like that, but maybe I could get a few of the guys in Chicago to do something like that. So maybe we could have one of us come check it out.
Yeah, yeah, and I've been thinking about I might even put on one or two satellite tournaments, maybe team up with a video game store. I have some good relationships with those guys, so if the trick is to get people to commit so that it all works out. So you get your four guys to show up that day, but so I might look that route a few times in Omaha, maybe in Des Moines too, since it's close by.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I didn't really think too much about that, but yeah, to meet that $113 entry fee, that's a perfect idea.
Yeah, I think Mike in Chicago, there was maybe one or two times where they still had a slot left right at the end of their tournaments, and so to get to 16, he went on got some people into satellite, and that's how they filled their last spot. So definitely good. Tecmo Super, your tournament is, what was it, $50 to get into Madison?
Madison, I believe it was 40 or $50. Yeah, there's so many players there though. Like I think it was a 256, and a few guys didn't show up, maybe like 13.
Okay,
So
wow, still,
there's
that's a lot.
yes, there's a lot of players. So and I think at that price point, it's still affordable for individuals.
I think so, yeah.
So
And also, I can see people even for $50 going and doing it once, just to do the experience. I think you'll get those people every year in Madison.
yep. Oh yeah, yeah. There's guys who go 1 year and then don't come back for a few more years. I was kind of like that. I went a couple years when I was playing a lot online, a couple years in a row, and then I didn't go for like 4 or 5 years. But then they're having like the last tournament, and I went to that one, and then last year. So
Yeah. What's the deepest you've run in Madison?
the deepest I ran was actually the first one I played in. Going into the tournament, I played like for a year and a half online, so I was doing good. And then the site that we use to record records online, TPC, I was actually number one on that going into the tournament, which there's still good guys playing on there, not all the good players. But out of 88, I think was that tournament. There was 88 players at that one, Tecmo 6. I made it to the final 32. And
Okay.
I actually ended up losing to Mort in overtime in a game I was winning by like 10.
Oh wow, wow. That's
Yeah, he ended up winning the tournament too. That
okay.
so
Was that a 10-point lead in the second quarter or third quarter? Or when did you?
I believe it was the third quarter.
Oh, that's a bad beat, man, to get up by that much and
Yeah.
have it evaporate. So
Yeah, but playing in the tournament for the first time, I thought it was a good run. And then knowing that, he actually won the tournament, I'm like, okay, well, I could see what level I'm at least.
yeah, all right. Yeah, I've got a couple of buddies that they're Tecmo Super players, but they've been at Tecmo Bowl tournaments that I was in, the original Tecmo Bowl. And what's cool is they're good at Tecmo Bowl, and they've each made runs into the at least to the round of 32 a few times up in Madison. So I have found that at the tournaments I go to, if there's a really good Tecmo Super Bowl player at our Tecmo tournament, definitely got to watch out for that guy. The skills do still translate.
Yeah, because the passing game is similar.
Hmm.
The running I feel like is a little bit different. I don't think the running backs are as shifty. Would you agree with that, or?
Only like the really elites. Are you talking about the original Tecmo?
Yeah.
Yeah, like Dickerson, Peyton, Bo, like those three guys are game changers. But everybody else is, it's basically those three, and there's everybody else.
Right.
Tony Dorsett's can have a really good game. If things are really clicking with your play calls, the mid-level backs can be really dangerous. But for the most part, it's those three guys and everybody else.
Yeah. Cool. All right. So you got anything else?
I think that pretty much covers. Oh, you know what? I do have one other thing here. we're going to be giving away this trophy also.
Wow.
It's like it's sort of it's not a pewter, but it's kind of a metallic thing. So this is from the 2017 Omaha, Nebraska tournament. So it went to the winner. So I'll give you an idea of who won this tournament. This thing is, I believe, 14 inches tall. So we're going to have another one of these made. I had a bunch of guys that buddies of mine. We went in on this trophy for the Omaha tournament. And so we thought, hey, there's 4 of us, so maybe one of us will come away with it. So we will be doing this at the tournament next year. So not only could you win $825 cash, but you can win a pretty sweet Lombardi replica.
Yeah, that's a nice piece of hardware. I also saw that there's like a website that has a Tecmo Bowl belt. Have you seen that?
I have. It's a very nice belt. I was blown away at the detail and the graphics, and so it was pretty sweet.
Yeah, I think eventually I want to get myself one of those to like have the champion in like any tournaments we run in Chicago, like wear that belt for the day or something, take pictures with it. I don't know. But
yeah, no, it's a good, Troy GB Land, he had they do the NHL 94, and they had they call it the Manly Cup or something. Have you seen that trophy?
I no.
You'll have to, I'm sure you're probably friends with him on Facebook, or even just message him and ask him about it. But it was this metal trophy that somebody made, and the quality, like, it looks like something that costs a few $100 at minimum. So check that trophy out.
Yeah, I'll have to ask Troy about that. That's cool.
Yeah, so it's just cool to see the different trophies, and not to knock Tecmo Super Tourneys, but sometimes the trophies they give away, I'm like, you guys should put a little bit of that prize money towards something that's a little nicer. So
yeah, I haven't paid too much attention to the trophies, but I have seen some of the pictures.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think they're as good as what you got there.
Yeah, and this thing is a little expensive. I think it was I can't remember, maybe $50 or something. So you definitely shell out for it. But it also, I feel like a really nice trophy. It's a selling point too, to have on display. So you might lure in some more people just out of the trophy they could win too. So
yeah, take a picture of that and put it on your homepage so people know that trophy's on the line, or one just like it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Cool. All right. I think that will do it. Thanks a lot for joining me, Brad.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Tom. Appreciate it, man.
And let's do this again sometime.
We will. Thanks, buddy.